Hey there, thanks for stopping by my channel to color. Today we're going to be working on this adorable Moe's digital pencil image called Be Hoppy. Isn't she totally cute? I'll put a link to the image down in the description box in case you would like to head over and pick her up and color along with me. I'll also put a link to everything I've used on my card here today down in the description box in case you would like to pick something up. I went ahead and I printed my image on some Neenah 80-pound solar white cardstock. So let's color. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and outline our image first. For that we're going to use C0. I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to go around the entire outside of my image with my marker. I don't really pay attention to how fat my line is. I'm just making a shadow around the outside so it makes it look like it's a little bit popping off the page, not quite so flat. And I like to do it first so that I don't have to worry about grabbing any of the colors off my image and dragging them out into my background. And I've done that multiple times, so for me it's easier to do the outlining first. You could totally skip this step. I just like how it makes it look like it's not quite so flat to me, and so that's why I do it. Also, I like to do it first so that in case I do color on my image and I want to erase it, it's easy to use my colorless blender to get that marker off of my image before I do any coloring. If you wait till the end, then you tend to make a big mess. So it's easier to do the outlining first and then you don't have to worry. Alright, let's go ahead and work on the inside of the mouth. For that we're going to use EO4, R14, R20, C0, and then I'm also going to use W6, which I will show you here in a minute. I just forgot to get it out. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with my EO4, and I'm going to do just up in the top of the corner of her mouth where she's got those little lines already drawn on there for me. Quick and easy, just do a little swipe with it. I'm trying to use just the very end of my pen so that it will just barely put any color down on there. Next we're going to add some R14 right over the top of that. So I'm going to go ahead and color right over the top of my EO4. I just thought the purple on the back would make it a little bit darker and a little bit more shadowed in there. And then I decided that after I got that on there, I'm like, it's looking a little too red. So that's when I grabbed my W6 and added a little bit more of that darker shadow in there to make it a little bit darker. I didn't want it to be quite so pink in there. So I'm just going to go over the little lines that are already drawn on there for me. And then I'm going to go over the top of that with my EO4. And then we'll go over the top of that with our R14. I'm also going to add a little bit of that color to her tongue so we can kind of get some shadows in the back of her mouth there going on her tongue. And then we're going to fill in that little spot on the front with our R20. And it's looking a little patchy there. I'm not liking how it blended, so I'm going to grab my R14 again, and I'm going to give it a second coat. So we're just going to give it a couple of more swipes. And then I'll go over that little spot there again with my R20. Let's go ahead and add a little bit more of our EO4 there in the back, just to pinken that up and purple it up a little bit so it's looking a little bit darker in the back so it's more in the shadows. And then I'm going to take my C1 and I'm just going to do a quick little line across the top of her teeth and then a little bit down the center so it looks like there's a little bit of a divide there. Alright, let's do our eyes next. For that we're going to use B02 and B00. And there's nothing fancy. I'm just going to go ahead and do half of her eye with my B02. I'm going to do the top upper half. So I'm just going to give it a quick little swipe. And you want to be careful because those eyes are really small. At least mine were when I printed them. So you're going to want to do just a little touch with the top of your pen and that's it. And then I'm going to fill in the bottom half with my B00. Nothing fancy, again, just being very careful just to use the tip of my pen to fill in the rest of that little bitty space there. And then I thought I would brighten them up, so I'm going to grab BO2 again and do a second swipe over the top of her eye just to brighten it up a little bit. Alright, so for her skin, we're going to use E13, E11, E21, E00, E000, and for cheeks, I'm going to use R20 and R30. Let's go ahead and start with E11. Don't want to use E13 first because it's really dark and I'm going to save that till the end. So we're going to do E11 and do a little swipe there under her neck, and then I'm going to add a little bit of shadows on each of her finger, and I'm trying to do just the very tip of my pen and barely touch the paper, so I just do a very small dinky line. Next I'm going to come over that with my E21. So I'm going to swipe right over the top of my E11 and fill in the rest of her hand. They're pretty small, so you're not going to need much color on there. If you wanted to, you could also go and you could leave a little bit of white space, but I just decided to fill in the rest of the way in. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my E13. Now remember, you're going to use sparingly, so I want to do just a very small line along the edge of her sweater and under her neck. And then I'm going to add a little dab just to the really shadowy parts of her hand. Again, just a little bit. I'm trying to use just the tip of my pen because I don't want it to take over all of the coloring on her hand. Next, I'm going to go right over the top of that with my E11. Just going to swipe right over that, kind of soften it up a little bit. And then we'll swipe over the top of her entire hand and neck with our E21. That neck area is pretty shadowed, so you don't have to worry if you get a little bit extra in there because it's down underneath, tucked underneath, so it's going to be a lot darker underneath there than it is the rest of her features. Okay, so we're going to hop up here and we're going to do her face. So again, we're going to start with E11, and since her hood is falling kind of over her face there and it's kind of tipped on that side, I'm going to go from her eye, clear across the top of her hood, down to the other side of her face, and then I'm going to do a little dab above her nose just to give it a little bit of color on that side of her face so it looks like it's in a shadow. Next, we're going to have our E21. E21, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to soften my edge of my E11, just lightly swiping over the edge of that line, barely bringing it past the line. I don't want it to completely take over her face, but I want to add a little bit more on there. And then I'm going to outline the rest of her face so that it has a little bit of shadows. On her little lip there, I wanted to make sure to add a little bit there so that it looks like she's got some shadows on her lip and where the creases of her eye are. So again, just using the tip of my pen, barely going along those creases and just adding a little bit of shadows in there. Underneath a little patch on her eye where it looks like she's got a little wrinkle because she's smiling so big. And then next we're going to go over that with our E00. So we're just softening the edge of that E21, flick a little bit of color out here, going over all those lines just to soften them up. I went ahead and filled in that half of her face because it's more in the shadows and I wanted it to look like it was a little bit more shadowy. And then we'll go up here and underneath of her lip, or over the top of her lip too, so it looks like it has more shadows. And then we're going to go ahead and grab E000 and we're going to fill in the rest of her skin area. Now we're going to come in with our E13, and again, we're going to start our cheeks. Sorry about that. We're going to go ahead and do R20 first, and I'm kind of going in like a small triangle. So I try to bring it fatter towards the edge of her face, and then as a line over the top of that little puff of fat she's got going there on her cheek. She looks so cute. Then we're going to soften the edges of that with our R30. And again, I'm just going in my little line, and then I'm softening the edge of that R20 just a little bit. And don't worry, we're going to come back and add some more pink on there because that's not going to be enough. Even after this, we're going to add a little bit more pink right here, but still, after I put some more color on there, I'm going to decide that's still not going to be pink enough, so I'm going to come back again. Another softening of our R30. She's looking just adorable. Now we'll do our E13. So again, you want to use it sparingly, so I'm going to do a little dab right there in the corner of her eye, above her nose, and then I'm going to go along the side of her face, underneath of the hood of her hat, and down the side of the other side of her face. I'm barely touching the paper because I want that line to be really skinny. Then we're going to go over the top of that with our E11. So we're just going to very barely put a little bit more color on there, tapping it with the end of your pen just a little bit, adding a little bit on there. I don't want her face to be too dark, so I'm trying to be very sparing. There's a little bit of shadows there underneath of her lip. And then we got to soften that E13, so I'm going along the edge. And then we'll come in and we'll soften that with our E21. So again, we're just going to pull a little bit past our E11, barely swiping a little bit of color on there, filling some of that in, making this side of her face a little bit more shadowed since it's tipped down there on that side, bringing some color out onto her cheek, underneath of her lip, and around onto this side of her face there because it's in the shadow more. Then I'm going to soften that with our E00. I tend to swipe this color a little bit further onto my E21 and E11 than I did with the other colors. That way it will soften some of those lines that I still have going on and blend it a little bit better. Now we'll grab our E000 and we're going to go over her entire face. So I just swipe back and forth, fill in the rest, make sure to get all those little white spots. And then here I decided her cheeks were not pink enough, so we're going to go ahead and grab our R20. Going to definitely pinken those up a little bit more. She's needing a little bit more color on there. And let's start her lip. She's got her bottom lip there that needs a little bit of color, so I'm going to swipe it with a little bit of color just on the little line. I didn't go all the way to the edges, just the little dab that her lip is showing. A little bit more on her cheek. I decided that still wasn't going to be pink enough, so we're going to give it another swipe on her lip. And then I'm going to soften those cheeks a little bit with my E000. Let's go ahead and add another coat of our R20 onto her lip just to pink up just a little bit more. Okay, so for the inside of the ears, we're going to use R14, R32, R20, and R30. We're going to start with our R30. I'm going to go ahead and just cover the entire inside of her ear, leaving space on the outside edges so that we can put some purple on there. Quick and easy, just fill it right in. Then we're going to come in with our R20 and we're going to use 3/4 of that space. So I'm just going to swipe from the edge about 3/4 of the way out and flick a little bit of this pink on there. Just darkening those up a little bit. Same with the other side. I'm going to go right along the edges of the inside and use about 3/4 of my space up and flick some color on there. Then we'll come with our R32. I'm going to take up about half of that leftover space. Quick swipe, darkening those edges up. Same for this side, about half that space. And then I'm going to do a thin line down the inside with my R14. I'm trying to use just the tip of my pen. I do not want it to be too fat. I'm just trying to add some shading right along the edge of that curve. Then I'm going to go ahead and give it a second coat. So I'm going to go over that line with my R32. And I tend to go just a little bit past where I laid down my R32 last time. So I'm flicking just a little bit further than I did the previous coat. That kind of helps me soften that line a little bit. And then I'm going to go over that with my R20. So again, I start on my R32, flick just a little bit past my R20 that I used last time. And then I'm going to finish it off by going over that rest of the area with my R30. Alright, let's go ahead and do that little carrot on the front of her outfit with our YR18. Nothing fancy, I'm just going to swipe over the top of it and color it all the way in. Let's go ahead and finish up our outfit with V17, V15, V12, and V01. So I'm going to go ahead and do the underneath the hood first. So for that we're going to use V17. I'm just going to swipe right along the edge of her outfit there where it's tucked in underneath close to her face. So I'm going to a little swipe on this side, bring it down kind of towards that carrot. Same for this side. We want to go right up there where all those little lines are. I want to go right next to her face because that's going to be the shadowiest area. Bring that down, and I'm going to kind of curve it around here and go underneath of her face, her cheek on this side too. Kind of in a little swoop. We want it to kind of curve around. And then I'm going to soften that with my V15. Just going to grab that. I'm going to go right over the top of that and kind of cover in the rest of the inside area of her jacket or her outfit. I'm kind of keeping it in a little swoop there. I want to leave the outside edge for the lighter color. And then I decided that it was still looking kind of liney, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my V17 again, and we're going to give it a second coat. So nothing fancy, we're just going to swipe right over the top of it and make it a little bit darker too, because I'm thinking it's still a little too light. It is inside of her jacket, and I want it to be a lot darker. And then we'll go ahead and soften that with our V15. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue with the rest of the outfit. So for the rest of the outfit, we're going to use V15, V12, and V01. I went ahead and put my V17 away because we're not going to be needing that anymore. I wanted to use that just on the inside there to add a lot of shadows in there. So you want to put your V15 down wherever you want it to be the darkest. So kind of where the hat's tucked in there, kind of curving around, coming out from underneath, and then across the top. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my V12 over the top of that. So we're just going to soften that edge a little bit, swiping along the edge, and I'm leaving the outside rim of her hood there for my lightest color. So I'm kind of outlining that just so that it will really stand out when we put our V01 on the top of it. So we'll go ahead and fill in that little patch there with our V01. And it's really looking liney still, but don't worry because you're going to give everything a second coat. So I'm going to go ahead and grab V15 again. And we're just going to add that right where we put it down the last time. And remember, with my second coat, I tend to go past where I went the first time just a little bit. Kind of softens that edge a little bit and brings that color out a little bit more. Then we'll add our V12. So start somewhere on your V15, swish it out there along the edges, bring it around that corner, and then swipe up past where you laid it down the first time. Then with our V01, we'll go ahead and fill in the top corner of our hat. So I'm starting on my V12 and I'm swiping out into my white area. And then we'll go ahead and fill in the cover on this hood right here. I didn't paint it the first time because I wanted it to be really light, so I went ahead and left it with only one coat. Alright, then we're going to do the rest of her outfit the same way, so I'm going to go ahead and let you watch that. We're going to do two coats. We're going to do V15, V12, and V01, and we're just going to go in and put all our shadows in with the V15. We'll go over that with our V12, and then we'll fill it in with the V01, and we'll come back with our second coat of everything. So I'm going to let you watch that, and then I will chat with you again here in just a few minutes. Okay guys, let's go ahead and finish up our image with our Sharpie white paint poster pen. I'm just going to add some circles or some dots on my image. I thought Mo's image that she colored on her site was super cute with all those little dots on there. Makes it look really fun and whimsical. So I thought I'd go ahead and do that here with my paint pen. You just want to make sure when you use your paint pen that you shake it really good with the lid on so that the paint gets all mixed up in there. And then when you get ready to do the dots, I'm just kind of variegating them and make them smaller and bigger. Just be careful using it. Don't press too hard or else the paint will come blobbing out and make this big mess, and you don't want to ruin your image. So lightly use your paint pen and draw some little circles on there. Or if you don't want the circles on there, don't put those on there at all. You can maybe add some glitter to her outfit. I could totally see her having some Spic of glitter pen all over that outfit, or some Wink of Stella brush clear glitter, making her all nice and sparkly and pretty. Alright, that's going to do it for coloring today. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber yet, go ahead and hit that little subscribe button. Make sure to hit the little bell next to it so you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. If you have a question, make sure to leave it down in the comments below and I'll make sure to get back to you. If you'd like to see more of this card or read the description, you can head over to the store blog and I'll put a link to that down in the description box for you. I hope you're having a fabulous day and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.